The stars looked different now. Day One stood at the observation deck of the warship Indomitable, watching the distant lights blur past as they traveled through faster-than-light space. He remembered when humans first looked up at those same stars and dreamed of reaching them. Now, 70 years after first contact, humanity was fighting to keep their place among them. The galaxy had split into two sides. On one side stood the Terran coalition, led by humans and their allies who believed in freedom and choice. On the other side was the Vortan Collective, an ancient alien empire that had ruled for thousands of years. They believed in order, hierarchy, and unity of thought. For the past decade, these two powers had circled each other like wolves, neither willing to strike first, but both preparing for war. Day One was 32 years old, though he felt much older. His black hair was cut military short, and his dark eyes held a hardness that came from seeing too much death. He worked for coalition intelligence, tracking enemy movements and uncovering secrets. He was good at his job, perhaps too good. Some said he was obsessed. They were probably right. The door behind him slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Tae Yang entered, his gray uniform crisp despite the long hours. At 45, the captain was a veteran of the early conflicts with the Vortans. His weathered face showed every battle he had survived. "We're approaching the briefing coordinates," Tae Yang said. "The specialist will arrive within the hour." Daewon nodded without turning away from the window. "Do we really need a civilian on this mission?" "She's not just any civilian. Hana is the best xenolinguist we have. If the intelligence about the Vortan weapon is real, we'll need someone who understands how they think." "I know how they think," Daewon replied, his voice cold. "They think we're inferior. They think they should rule us." Tae Yang moved to stand beside him. "Your brother's death wasn't your fault, Daewon." The younger man's jaw tightened. "I know that." "Do you? Because for 3 years you've been hunting Vortans like it will bring him back." Daewon finally turned to face the captain. "This isn't about revenge. Intelligence found encrypted communications suggesting they're building a weapon that could end the war in their favor. If that's true, millions of humans will die or worse. That's why this matters." Before Tai Yang could respond, the ship's communication system chimed. A smooth female voice announced the arrival of the civilian transport. The specialist had arrived. They met her in the docking bay. Hana was 29, shorter than Daewon expected, with long dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore civilian clothes, a simple gray jacket over dark pants, and carried only a small bag. Her eyes, however, caught his attention. They were sharp and curious, studying everything around her with intense focus. "Dr. Hana," Tae Yang greeted her warmly, "welcome aboard the Indomitable." "Thank you, Captain," she replied with a slight bow. Then her eyes shifted to Daewon. "And you must be the intelligence officer leading this mission?" "Daewon," he said curtly, not offering his hand. She raised an eyebrow at his coldness, but said nothing. Instead, she looked around the military ship with obvious fascination. "I've read about coalition warships, but never been on one. It's impressive." "It's a weapon," Daewon said flatly. "Nothing more." "Everything is more than one thing," Hana replied softly, meeting his gaze. "Even weapons." Something about the way she spoke irritated him, though he couldn't say exactly why. Perhaps it was her calm certainty, or the way she didn't seem intimidated by his hostile attitude. He was used to civilians who either feared military personnel or idolized them. She seemed to do neither. Tai Yang cleared his throat, breaking the awkward silence. "Let me show you to your quarters, Dr. Hana. We'll have a full mission briefing in 2 hours." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Daewon followed a few steps behind. He studied the way she moved, looking for any sign of deception or weakness. Coalition intelligence had vetted her, of course, but he trusted his own instincts more than background checks. The briefing room was small but efficient, with a large holographic display at its center. Besides Daewon, Hana, and Captain Tae Yang, there were 3 other team members. Lieutenant J was the pilot, a young woman with quick reflexes and nerves of steel. Corporal Min handled communications and technical work, his fingers always dancing across some device or another. Sergeant Bo-Ra was their security specialist, a quiet man who could kill efficiently and without hesitation. Ambassador Kyung-mi appeared on the holographic display, her image transmitted from Coalition headquarters on Earth. At 52, she was one of humanity's most experienced diplomats, having negotiated with dozens of alien species. "Thank you all for coming," Kyung-mi began. "What I'm about to share is classified at the highest level. 3 weeks ago, one of our deep cover operatives in Vortan space intercepted encrypted communications. The details were fragmentary, but they suggest the Vortans are developing something they call the Unity device." The hologram shifted, showing alien text and technical diagrams. Hana leaned forward, her eyes scanning the information rapidly. "We believe this device is a weapon," Kyung-mi continued, "but not a conventional one. If our translation is correct, it's designed to alter consciousness itself, potentially allowing the Vortans to control populations without ever firing a shot." "Mind control," Bo-Ra said quietly. "They want to turn us into slaves." "We don't know for certain," Kyung-mi admitted. "That's why this mission is crucial. You'll travel to Cascara, a neutral world in the buffer zone between our territories. Our informant there claims to have proof of the device's existence and location. Your job is to verify this intelligence and, if possible, discover how far along the project is." Daewon studied the star charts. Cascara was dangerous territory, filled with refugees, criminals, and spies from both sides. It was the kind of place where people disappeared and nobody asked questions. "When do we leave?" he asked. "Immediately," Tae Yang replied. "We'll drop you at the edge of Cascara's system in a civilian transport. From there, you're on your own until extraction." Hana raised her hand slightly. "Ambassador, I've studied Vortan culture extensively. They value collective harmony above individual desire. A weapon like this seems inconsistent with their philosophy. Are we certain the intelligence is accurate?" Kyung-mi's expression softened slightly. "That's exactly why you're on this team, Dr. Hana. We need someone who can look beyond our assumptions and see the truth, whatever it might be." Daewon felt his irritation growing again. The truth was simple. The Vortans were the enemy, and they wanted to destroy or subjugate humanity. Everything else was just naive idealism. After the briefing ended, the team dispersed to prepare. Daewon was checking his equipment when Hana approached him. "Can we talk?" she asked. "We're talking now," he replied without looking up from his weapons check. "About the mission. I get the feeling you don't want me here." He finally met her eyes. "You're a civilian. You'll slow us down and potentially compromise the operation." "I speak 7 alien languages fluently," she said calmly. "I've spent 5 years studying Vortan culture and psychology. I can help you understand what we find." "I understand them fine. They're ruthless, calculating, and they killed my brother along with 200 other humans in an unprovoked attack." Hana was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry for your loss, but hatred won't help us complete this mission. Neither will sympathy for the enemy." She held his gaze. "I don't have sympathy for the enemy. I have sympathy for the truth. There's a difference." Before he could respond, she turned and walked away, leaving him alone with his weapons and his thoughts. As he watched her go, Daewon felt something unfamiliar, a tiny crack in the armor he had built around himself over 3 years. He pushed the feeling away. There was no room for doubt or distraction. The mission was all that mattered. The civilian transport ship looked like it had seen better days. Its hull was scarred from countless journeys, and the interior smelled of recycled air and old metal. Daewon sat in the pilot's seat with Lieutenant Jay beside him, while the others occupied the cramped passenger compartment behind them. Through the viewport, the planet Cascara grew larger, a brown and gray world marked by sprawling cities and industrial complexes. "Doesn't look very welcoming," Jay muttered, adjusting their approach vector. "It's not supposed to be," Daewon replied. "Cascara exists because both sides need a place for illegal trade, information exchange, and back-channel negotiations. The government looks the other way as long as nobody starts a war on their soil." Hana appeared in the doorway between compartments. "I've been reading about Cascara's history. It was a Vortan colony world that declared independence 50 years ago. The population is about 40% Vortan, 30% human, and 30% other species. That diversity could work to our advantage." Daewon glanced back at her. "Or it could mean twice as many people wanting to kill us or sell us out." "Always the optimist," she said with a slight smile. Despite himself, Daewon felt his lips twitch. He suppressed the almost smile immediately. There was no time for getting comfortable with each other. They landed at a commercial spaceport on the edge of the capital city. The place was busy with ships of all sizes and origins. Traders shouted in a dozen languages. The air was thick with unfamiliar smells, alien foods, industrial chemicals, and unwashed bodies. Corporal Min had already hacked into the local network, creating false identities for all of them. As far as Cascara's authorities knew, they were independent traders looking for opportunities. It was a common enough story that nobody would look too closely. Their contact was supposed to meet them at a bar called the Void's Edge. The place was deep in the old quarter, where the buildings were older and the law enforcement was minimal. Daewon insisted they split into two groups. He would go with Hana while the others set up a safe house and established escape routes. "Why me?" Hana asked as they walked through narrow streets. "Because if our contact speaks Vortan, I'll need you to translate. And if things go wrong, you're less threatening than Bo-Ra or Min." "Less threatening," she repeated with amusement. "I'll take that as a compliment." The Void's Edge was exactly what Daewon expected. Dark, crowded, and filled with people who didn't want to be found. Species from across the galaxy sat at tables, conducting business in hushed voices. A Vortan stood behind the bar, its tall, slender form moving with liquid grace as it mixed drinks for customers. Daewon and Hana took a corner booth where they could watch the entrance. Their contact was late. Minutes stretched into an hour. Daewon's instincts screamed that something was wrong. "Maybe he got delayed," Hana suggested quietly. "Or maybe he's already dead." She looked at him with those sharp eyes. "You really do expect the worst in every situation." "I'm still alive, aren't I?" Before she could respond, a figure slid into their booth. It wasn't their contact. This was a young human woman with cybernetic implants along her temple and a knife scar across her cheek. "You're looking for Valkyr," the woman said without preamble. "Who's asking?" Daewon replied, his hand moving casually toward his concealed weapon. "Someone who wants to live through the night. Valkyr got greedy. He tried to sell the same information to 3 different buyers. Now he's dead in an alley 2 blocks from here." Daewon felt his stomach tighten. "You saw who killed him?" "Vortan military intelligence. They're cleaning house, getting rid of anyone who knows about their little project." The woman's eyes darted to the door. "You should leave Cascara. Whatever you're looking for, it's not worth dying for." "Wait," Hana said, leaning forward. "Did Valkyr tell you anything before he died?" The woman hesitated. Daewon saw calculation in her eyes and knew what was coming. He pulled out a credit chip and slid it across the table. "He said the device wasn't a weapon," the woman said quickly, pocketing the chip. "He said it was worse than that. He said it was mercy." Then she stood and disappeared into the crowd before either of them could ask more questions. Daywan cursed under his breath. Their only lead was dead, and now Vorton intelligence knew someone was asking questions. The mission was falling apart before it had really begun. "We need to leave," he said, standing up, but Hana grabbed his arm. "Wait! Look at the bar." The Vortan bartender was watching them. When it saw them looking back, it made a subtle gesture toward a back door. Then it went back to serving drinks as if nothing had happened. "Could be a trap," Daywan said. "Could be our only chance," Hana countered. He hated that she was right. They made their way through the crowd toward the back door, trying to look casual. Daywan's hand stayed near his weapon. Every instinct told him to run, but intelligence officers didn't survive by running from opportunities, even dangerous ones. The back door led to a storage room filled with barrels and boxes. The Vortan bartender appeared moments later, closing the door behind it. In the dim light, Daywan could see its features more clearly. Vortons were humanoid but taller, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed both beautiful and alien. This one had markings on its forehead that indicated high social status. "You seek information about the Unity device," it said in perfect human English. Hana stepped forward. "You speak our language well. I was stationed on Earth for 5 years as a cultural observer. I learned to appreciate humanity's unusual qualities." The Vortan's large eyes studied them both. "My name is Relkin. Velkir was my information source. His death was unnecessary and wasteful." "Why are you helping us?" Daywan asked suspiciously. "Because I believe the Unity device is wrong. Not all Vortans support its development. Some of us remember when we valued diversity of thought before the collective became obsessed with perfect harmony." Daywan wanted to reject this immediately. Vortans couldn't be trusted. They were the enemy. But something in Relkin's voice gave him pause. Hana spoke in the Vortan language, her words flowing smoothly. Relkin responded in kind, and they had a rapid conversation that Daywan couldn't follow. Finally, Hana turned to him. "Relkin says the device is being built in a secret facility in Vortan space. But there's a research station here on Cascara where they test components. If we can get inside, we might find proof of what the device actually does." "And how do we get inside a secured research station?" Relkin reached into its robe and pulled out a data chip. "Security codes, updated as of this morning, but you must move quickly. After Velkir's death, they will change everything within 24 hours. Daywan took the chip carefully. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't," Relkin said simply. "Trust is earned over time, and we have no time. But consider this. If I wanted to trap you, I could simply alert the authorities. Instead, I'm risking my own life to help you. That should count for something." Before Daywan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Red lights flashed in the hallway beyond the storage room. "Security sweep," Relkin said urgently. "They're searching for you. Go out the service entrance, turn left and run. I'll delay them as long as I can." Daywan grabbed Hana's hand and pulled her toward the exit Relkin indicated. Behind them, they heard shouting in multiple languages. The chase had begun. They ran through narrow alleys and across crowded markets. Daywan contacted the team through his encrypted communicator, giving them a rendezvous point. Hana kept pace beside him, her breath coming hard but steady. She was stronger than she looked. Blaster fire scorched the wall beside them. Daywan yanked Hana into a doorway, just as another shot missed them by inches. He returned fire blindly, not trying to hit anyone, just buying them seconds to escape. They ducked into an abandoned building, racing up crumbling stairs. Behind them, their pursuers shouted orders. Daywan counted at least 4 voices, maybe more. The building's roof was their only option. On the rooftop, with nowhere left to run, Daewon and Hana crouched behind a ventilation unit. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across Cascara's ugly cityscape. Their pursuers would be here any moment. "I'm sorry," Hana said quietly. "For what?" "For slowing you down. You could have escaped alone." Daewon looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, her face was smudged with dirt, her hair had come loose from its ponytail, and her eyes were wide with fear. But there was also determination there, a refusal to give up. "You didn't slow me down," he said, "and we're not done yet." He pulled out his communicator and sent an emergency extraction signal. Then he checked his weapon. 6 shots left. It would have to be enough. The door to the roof burst open. 4 figures emerged. 2 Vortan soldiers and 2 human mercenaries. Daewon stepped out from cover, weapon raised. "Last chance to walk away," he said. The leader, a scarred human with military-grade armor, laughed. "You're worth a lot of money, Coalition spy. Dead or alive doesn't matter to me." The fight was brief and brutal. Daewon was fast, but he was outnumbered. He took down 1 mercenary and wounded a Vortan before a blast caught his shoulder. Pain exploded through him and his weapon clattered away across the roof. Then Hana did something unexpected. She charged at the nearest attacker, hitting him with a piece of metal pipe she'd grabbed from somewhere. It wasn't elegant or effective, but it surprised everyone enough that Daewon could recover his weapon and finish the fight. When the last enemy fell, they stood together in the gathering darkness, breathing hard. Blood ran down Daewon's arm from his wounded shoulder, but it wasn't serious. They had survived. The sound of engines made them look up. Lieutenant J appeared in a stolen hoverbike, grinning wildly. "Need a ride?" As they flew away from the chaos, Daewon realized something had changed. He looked at Hana, who smiled back at him despite her exhaustion. For the first time since his brother's death, he felt something other than anger and grief. He felt alive. The safe house was a cramped apartment in one of Cascara's older districts, the kind of place where people minded their own business. Corporal Min had set up surveillance equipment that monitored the streets below, while Sergeant Bora stood watch by the single window. Lieutenant J worked on repairing the stolen hoverbike they had used to escape. Hana cleaned and bandaged Daewon's shoulder wound. Her hands were steady despite everything they had been through. The blast had burned through his jacket and scorched the skin underneath. But the injury wasn't deep. "You'll have a scar," she said softly. "Add it to the collection." He watched her work, noticing the way she focused completely on the task. "You were brave tonight. Stupid, but brave." She looked up at him, a slight smile on her lips. "I thought you said I would slow you down." "I was wrong." The admission surprised him as much as it seemed to surprise her. Min spoke up from his position at the computer terminal. "I've analyzed the security codes Relkin gave us. They're legitimate, and they'll get us into the research station's outer perimeter. But there's something odd in the file structure." Daewon moved to look over Min's shoulder, Hana following close behind. The screen showed complex data streams and encrypted communications. "What am I looking at?" Daewon asked. "The security codes came bundled with other files. Someone piggybacked additional data onto the chip. It's encrypted. But I can crack it given time." "How much time?" 6 hours, maybe less. Daewon nodded. "Do it. We need to know what we're walking into." The team took turns sleeping in shifts. Daewon found himself unable to rest despite his exhaustion. He stood by the window, watching the streets below. Cascara never truly slept. Even at this late hour, people moved through the shadows, conducting business that couldn't survive daylight. Hana joined him after a while. She had changed into clean clothes from their emergency supplies, and her hair was damp from washing. She looked younger somehow, less like the professional academic and more like a regular person caught up in something dangerous. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Sleep is a luxury for people who don't have enemies." "That must be exhausting. Always being on guard." He glanced at her. "It keeps me alive." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Daewon found himself oddly relaxed in her presence, which was dangerous. Comfort led to mistakes, and mistakes got people killed. "Tell me about your brother," Hana said quietly. The request caught him off guard. "Why?" "Because he matters to you. Because his death drove you to do this work. I want to understand." Daewon was quiet for a long time. He almost refused, but something about the genuine interest in her voice made him reconsider. "His name was Young Soo. He was 3 years younger than me, smarter, funnier, better with people. I was the soldier, but he was the one who could have actually made a difference in the galaxy." "What happened?" "He was on a civilian transport heading to a coalition colony. The Vortans intercepted it, said it was carrying military supplies. It wasn't. It was families, children, people just trying to start new lives. The Vortans gave them 10 minutes to evacuate before they destroyed the ship. Young-Soo helped others get to the escape pods. He saved 47 people, but he ran out of time for himself." Hana's hand touched his arm gently. "I'm sorry." Sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't stop them from doing it again. "No, but revenge won't bring him back either. At some point, you have to decide what you're fighting for, not just what you're fighting against." Her words struck deeper than he wanted to admit. Before he could respond, Min called out from the computer. "I broke the encryption. You need to see this." They gathered around the terminal. Min's face was pale as he pulled up files on the screen. What they saw made Daewon's blood run cold. The additional data on Relkin's chip contained classified coalition documents, plans for a weapon system, research into consciousness manipulation, technical specifications that looked disturbingly similar to what they knew about the Vortan Unity device. "This can't be real," Bora said. "The coalition wouldn't develop the same kind of weapon they're trying to stop." But Daewon knew the truth when he saw it. The files were authentic, marked with classification levels that only the highest coalition officials could access. His own government had been working on mind control technology, possibly even before the Vortans. Hana scrolled through the documents, her expression growing darker with each page. These research notes mention voluntary test subjects who suffered permanent psychological damage, and there's a recommendation to proceed with field testing despite the risks. "How did Relkin get access to coalition classified files?" Jay asked. That was the question that frightened Daewon most. Either Relkin was working with coalition traitors, or someone inside coalition intelligence had wanted them to find this information. Either scenario meant they couldn't trust their own superiors. "We need to contact Ambassador Kyung-mi," Hana said. "She needs to know about this." Daewon shook his head. "If there's a traitor high enough in coalition intelligence to access these files, contacting anyone could expose us. We're on our own until we figure out who we can trust." The team argued about their next move for an hour. Min wanted to abort the mission and return to coalition space. Bora suggested they complete the original mission and deal with the conspiracy later. Jay remained quiet, loyal to whatever Daewon decided. It was Hana who finally spoke the uncomfortable truth. "Both sides are developing the same weapon. That means this isn't about coalition versus Vortan. Someone wants war, and they're manipulating both governments to get it." The implication hung in the air like smoke. If Hana was right, then everything they thought they were fighting for was a lie. The Cold War wasn't a clash of ideologies. It was theater, designed to benefit someone operating in the shadows. Daewon felt his carefully constructed worldview crumbling. For 3 years, he had poured all his grief and anger into fighting the Vortans. They were the enemy, clear and simple. But now nothing was clear, and nothing was simple. He made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. We continue the mission. We infiltrate the research station and find out what the Unity device actually does. But we also look for evidence connecting both weapons programs. If someone is playing both sides, we need proof. Over the next few days, they planned their infiltration carefully. The research station was located in Cascara's industrial zone, disguised as a mining facility. Relkin's security codes would get them through the outer defenses, but inside would be dangerous. During this time, Daewon found himself drawn to Hana more and more. They spent long hours analyzing the stolen coalition documents, trying to understand the scope of the conspiracy. Her intelligence and insight impressed him. More than that, her moral clarity challenged his own certainty about right and wrong. One evening, after the others had gone to sleep, they sat together reviewing surveillance footage of the research station. "Why did you become a xenolinguist?" Daewon asked suddenly. Hana looked surprised by the question. "I grew up on a frontier colony where humans lived alongside 3 other species. I learned early that communication is the foundation of peace. When we truly understand each other, it's harder to see each other as enemies." "And you still believe that, after seeing what both sides are capable of?" "More than ever. This conspiracy exists because people stopped trying to understand each other and started seeing only enemies. That's what allows evil to flourish." Daewon wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words. Instead, he said, "You make it sound so simple. It's not simple at all. It's the hardest thing in the galaxy, but that doesn't make it wrong." Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. 2 people from different worlds, both searching for truth in a galaxy built on lies. "Daewon," she said softly, "what will you do if we discover the Coalition is just as guilty as the Vortons?" "I don't know," he admitted. "My whole life has been about serving the Coalition, protecting humanity. If that was all based on deception, then what was the point?" "The point is you," she said. "Not the institution you serve, but the choices you make. You can choose to keep looking for the truth even when it's painful. That's what makes you more than just a soldier." Her words stirred something deep inside him. Something he had buried when Young-Soo died. Hope, perhaps, or the possibility of redemption. Before he could respond, the proximity alarms blared. Min jumped to his terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "We've got company. Someone's accessing the building's security feeds." "How many?" Bo-Ra asked, already grabbing weapons. "Hard to say. At least 6, maybe more. They're coming up fast." Daewon cursed. Someone had found them, and there was nowhere to run. The apartment had only one exit, and it led directly to the stairwell where their attackers were approaching. "We make a stand here," he said. "Min, wipe all the data. Destroy everything we can't carry. Everyone else, defensive positions." As they prepared for the fight, Daewon caught Hana's eye. She looked frightened but determined. He wanted to tell her something. To apologize for dragging her into this mess or thank her for changing his perspective. But there wasn't time. The door exploded inward. Armed figures poured through the smoke. Daewon fired, his shots precise despite the chaos. Beside him, Bo-Ra and Jay fought with practiced efficiency. Min continued working on the computer even as bullets flew past his head. Then Daewon saw the leader of the attackers and his heart sank. It was Captain Tae Yang, the man who had sent them on this mission. Behind him were Coalition soldiers, not Vorton enemies. "Stand down," Tae Yang ordered. "You're all under arrest for treason." Daewon's weapon didn't waver. "What are you talking about?" "You've been compromised by enemy intelligence. The data you stole is false, designed to create distrust within Coalition ranks. You're coming back to face judgment." But Daewon saw the lie in Tae Yang's eyes. The captain knew the documents were real. He had come to silence them, to bury the truth before it could spread. "I can't let you do that," Daewon said quietly. Tae Yang's face hardened. Then you're a traitor, just like your brother was. The words hit Daewon like a physical blow. What did you say? Young-soo was investigating coalition weapons programs when he died. That transport was destroyed on purpose, to eliminate him and make it look like a Vortan attack. Everything Daewon believed shattered in that moment. His brother's death, his 3 years of revenge, all of it had been a lie. He had been manipulated, used as a weapon against the very truth Young-soo had died trying to expose. Hana stepped beside him, her hand finding his. "We're not going with you," she said firmly. The standoff stretched for endless seconds. Then Min shouted, "Data purge complete. All evidence uploaded to secure servers outside Coalition control." Tae Yang's eyes widened. "You fool! You've just signed your death warrant." But the distraction was enough. Jay threw smoke grenades, and chaos erupted again. In the confusion, the team fought their way to the window. It was a 3-story drop to the street below, but it was their only chance. They jumped together into uncertainty and darkness, leaving behind the only life Daewon had ever known. They landed hard on the street below, the impact jarring but not deadly. Bo-Ra had thrown cushioning equipment down first, giving them something to break their fall. Daewon rolled to his feet, ignoring the pain shooting through his legs. Behind them, Coalition soldiers appeared at the window, weapons raised. "Move!" he shouted. The team scattered into the night streets of Cascara. Blaster fire lit up the darkness, but they were already disappearing into the maze of alleys. Daewon grabbed Hana's hand and pulled her through a doorway, then down a service tunnel that ran beneath the buildings. The others would find their own escape routes. They had trained for this scenario, though none of them had expected to be running from their own people. They emerged several blocks away, gasping for breath. The tunnel had been dark and cramped, filled with pipes that leaked strange-smelling fluids. But they were alive, and for the moment, free. "Where do we go?" Hana asked between breaths. Daewon's mind raced. They were fugitives now. Wanted by the Coalition and probably by the Vortans too, once word spread. They had nowhere to hide, no allies they could trust, except maybe one. "Relkin," he said, "we need to find the Vortan who gave us the security codes." "Can we trust him?" "No, but we don't have any other options." It took them 3 hours of careful movement through Cascara's underworld to reach the Void's edge again. The bar was quieter now, in the dead hours before dawn when even criminals needed sleep. Daewon approached the back entrance carefully, weapon ready. The Vortan bartender was cleaning glasses, its long fingers moving with deliberate grace. When it saw them, Relkin showed no surprise. "I wondered when you would return," it said in its musical voice. "Please, come to the back room. We have much to discuss." They followed cautiously. The storage room was empty, except for the 3 of them. Relkin studied their faces with those large, expressive eyes. "You found the Coalition files," it said. Not a question, but a statement. "You knew they were there," Daewon accused. "You wanted us to find them." "Yes, because you needed to understand that this conflict is not what it appears to be. Both our governments are being manipulated by forces that want war, not peace." Hana stepped forward. "Who? Who benefits from humanity and the Vortan collective destroying each other?" "Extremists within my own people. They call themselves the Purifiers. They believe the collective has grown weak, that our acceptance of other species dilutes our cultural purity. They want to return to the old ways, when Vortans ruled alone." Daewon's hand tightened on his weapon. "So they created a weapon to enslave other species and blamed it on your government?" "More complex than that. The Purifiers have infiltrators in the highest levels of the Synod. They have convinced our leaders that the weapon is defensive, a way to prevent war by ensuring perfect understanding between species. But the truth is far darker. Once the Unity device is activated, it will rewrite the consciousness of everyone within range, making them loyal to whoever controls the device. And the Coalition version? Hana asked. Also controlled by Purifier agents. Your military leaders believe they are developing a counter-weapon to defend against the Vortan threat. In reality, both devices will activate simultaneously during the upcoming peace negotiations. The leadership of both governments will be enslaved, leaving the Purifiers in complete control. The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. Day-Wan felt dizzy trying to comprehend it. When are these negotiations? 3 days from now, on the neutral station Harmony Point in orbit above this planet. We have to warn someone, Hana said urgently. Ambassador Kyung-mi, the Synod, anyone who will listen. But Relkin shook its head sadly. Who will believe fugitives wanted for treason? Captain Tae-yang has already spread the story that you are Vortan spies, and any Vortan who speaks against the Unity device is labeled a traitor to the collective. Day-Wan felt the weight of impossible odds crushing down on him. 3 days to stop a conspiracy that had been years in the making. No allies, no resources, and both major governments hunting them. His communicator buzzed softly. It was an encrypted message from Min. Regrouped with others. Found evidence of Purifier connection. Meet at coordinates below. They found the rest of the team in an abandoned warehouse near the spaceport. Min had his computer equipment set up on makeshift tables, screens glowing with stolen data. Bo-Ra and Jay were checking weapons and supplies they had managed to salvage. Good to see you alive, Bo-Ra said with genuine relief. What did you find? Day-Wan asked Min. The young corporal pulled up files on his screen. After we escaped, I hacked deeper into Coalition communication networks. There's been unusual activity over the past 6 months. Money transfers, coded messages, personnel reassignments, it all points to a coordinated effort within Coalition intelligence. The Purifiers have people inside our government, Hana said. More than just people. Admiral Chang Wook, head of Coalition fleet operations, has been meeting secretly with known Vortan extremists. General So Jin, who oversees weapons development, has accounts in hidden banks, receiving massive funds from unknown sources. Even Captain Tae-yang is connected. Day-Wan felt sick. These were people he had trusted, people he had served under. His entire career had been built on lies. There's more, Min continued. I intercepted a message about an emergency session of the Coalition Security Council. They're voting tomorrow on whether to authorize a preemptive strike against Vortan space. If it passes, the war goes hot before the peace negotiations can even begin. That's the backup plan, Relkin said. If the Unity device doesn't succeed, the Purifiers will settle for open warfare. Either way, they get the conflict they desire. Hana was looking at the star charts on one of Min's screens. Harmony Point Station. If both devices are going to be activated there during negotiations, that's where we need to be. How? Jay asked. We're wanted criminals. We'd be arrested the moment we tried to board. Day-Wan studied the information, his tactical mind working through scenarios. It seemed impossible, but his brother had died trying to expose this conspiracy. Other innocent people had died. How many more would die if they did nothing? We steal a ship, he said finally. We go to Harmony Point, and we stop the device from activating. That's suicide, Bo-Ra said flatly. The station will be crawling with security from both sides. We'll never make it. Then we die trying. But at least we die doing something that matters. The team was quiet for a moment. Then, one by one, they nodded. They were soldiers, even Hana in her own way. They understood the weight of impossible missions. While they planned, news came through the planetary networks. Coalition border stations had been attacked, 3 of them simultaneously with devastating losses. The footage showed burning wreckage and bodies floating in space. The Coalition was blaming Vortan military forces. The collective was denying responsibility and accusing the coalition of fabricating the attacks as an excuse for war. "It's starting," Hana whispered, watching the destruction on screen. Day One recognized one of the destroyed stations. He had trained there, new people stationed there, friends. Now they were gone, sacrificed as pawns in someone else's game. His communicator buzzed again. This time it was a public broadcast, marked urgent. Ambassador Kyung-mi appeared on the screen, her face grave. "People of the Coalition, I speak to you in humanity's darkest hour. The Vortan Collective has launched unprovoked attacks on our border stations. Hundreds of our people are dead. The Security Council has authorized military response. As of this moment, we are at war." The declaration echoed through Daewon's mind. War. Open conflict between the two most powerful factions in the galaxy. Exactly what the Purifiers wanted. "We're too late," Min said quietly. But Hana shook her head. "No. The peace negotiations are still scheduled. Both sides still want to avoid full war if possible. That means we still have a chance." She was right. War had been declared, but neither side had committed to total conflict yet. There was a narrow window where diplomacy could still work, where the truth could still make a difference. Relkin spoke up. "I can help you reach Harmony Point. I know Vortan's on the station, those who oppose the Purifiers. But you must move quickly. Once the Unity device is activated, there will be no stopping the war." They spent the rest of the night preparing. Daewon found himself working beside Hana, checking equipment and planning their approach. Despite the desperate situation, he felt oddly calm. For the first time since his brother's death, he had a clear purpose that wasn't driven by revenge. "Are you scared?" Hana asked him quietly while the others were occupied. "Terrified," he admitted, but also relieved. "At least now I know what I'm really fighting for." "What's that?" He looked at her, really seeing her. This woman who had challenged his worldview, who had shown him that strength came in many forms, who had chosen to stand beside him even when it meant becoming a fugitive. "The truth," he said, "and the people worth protecting." She smiled, and in that moment, despite the war raging around them and the impossible mission ahead, Daewon felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years: hope. They stole a fast courier ship from the spaceport, Min's hacking skills getting them past security systems. As they lifted off from Cascara, Daewon took one last look at the planet below. It was an ugly world, filled with criminals and refugees, but it had given him something precious. It had shown him the truth. In the co-pilot seat, Hana reached over and squeezed his hand. No words were needed. They both knew the odds of survival were slim, but they also knew that some things were worth dying for. Behind them, Relkin sat quietly, meditating in the Vortan way. Bora, Min, and Jay checked their weapons one final time. They were a strange team: a disgraced intelligence officer, a civilian academic, 3 loyal soldiers, and an alien defector. Against them stood 2 galactic governments and a conspiracy years in the making. But they had each other, and they had the truth. Sometimes, Daewon thought, that was enough. The stars stretched out before them as they jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward Harmony Point and whatever fate awaited them there. The Cold War was ending, one way or another. It was time to make sure it ended the right way. The journey to Harmony Point took 18 hours through faster-than-light corridors. During that time, they monitored broadcasts from both Coalition and Vortan space. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Skirmishes had broken out along the border. Ships were being destroyed. Lives were being lost. Yet both governments continued to move forward with the peace negotiations, each side hoping to gain advantage through diplomacy while preparing for war. Daewon barely slept. He spent hours reviewing every piece of intelligence they had gathered, looking for weaknesses in the Purifier plan. Hana sat with him, her presence a quiet comfort in the chaos. "Tell me something," she said during one of these sessions. "If we succeed, if we stop the device and expose the conspiracy, what then? Where do you go when both governments want you dead?" "I haven't thought that far ahead." "You should. We should. Hope is what separates us from them." He looked at her tired face, the determination in her eyes despite the fear. "What do you hope for?" "A galaxy where humans and Vortans work together instead of fighting. Where my research actually matters. Where understanding between species isn't just academic theory but practical reality. And maybe, if I'm being selfish, a quiet place to do that work, with someone who understands why it matters." The way she looked at him when she said that last part made his heart beat faster. He wanted to tell her he felt the same, that somewhere in this nightmare mission, she had become more important to him than the cause they were fighting for. But the words felt too big, too vulnerable. Instead, he said, "We'll find that place. Together." She smiled, and for a moment the war felt very far away. Relkin interrupted their quiet moment. The Vortan had been meditating for most of the journey, but now its large eyes were open and troubled. "I must tell you something," it said. "About myself, and why I chose to help you." The team gathered to listen. Even Min looked up from his computer screens. "I was part of the Unity device research team," Relkin began. "Not by choice, but because my skills in consciousness studies made me valuable to the project. I believed the official story, that we were creating a tool for peace. When I discovered the truth, I tried to report it to the Synod. Instead, I was marked for elimination. I fled to Cascara and have been hiding ever since." "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Bo-Ra asked suspiciously. "Would you have trusted me if I had? A Vortan scientist from the very project you were investigating?" Daewon had to admit the point was valid. "What else should we know?" "The Unity device has one vulnerability. It requires a specific harmonic frequency to activate. If that frequency is disrupted during the activation sequence, the device will fail catastrophically. But the disruption must occur at the exact moment of activation, not before or after. The timing window is less than 2 seconds. "How do we disrupt it?" Hana asked. "With this." Relkin produced a small device from its robes. It looked like a tuning fork made of crystalline material. "This is a harmonic disruptor I designed before I fled. I have 2 of them, one for each device, but they must be placed within 10 meters of the Unity devices to work. So we need to get within 10 meters of both devices, at the same time, during the exact moment they activate," Jay summarized. "That's impossible." "Yes," Relkin agreed, "which is why I have been waiting for the right people to attempt it. People desperate enough, brave enough, and perhaps foolish enough to try." Daewon took the disruptors, feeling their strange weight. They were small, simple-looking objects to carry so much importance. "Where on the station will the devices be?" "The Coalition device will be in the diplomatic wing, hidden in the conference room where negotiations will take place. The Vortan device will be in the station's primary power hub, disguised as part of the energy distribution system. They are on opposite sides of the station." Min pulled up schematics of Harmony Point on his screen. The station was massive, a neutral meeting place built by both factions decades ago. Security would be intense, with soldiers from both sides patrolling every corridor. "We'll have to split up," Daewon said. 2 teams, each targeting one device. They spent the next hours planning. Daewon would lead one team to the diplomatic wing, taking Hana and Bo-Ra with him. Jay and Min would go to the power hub with Relkin. They would coordinate through encrypted communications and strike simultaneously. As they approached Harmony Point, Min worked his technical magic, forging credentials that identified them as maintenance workers with legitimate access. It was a thin disguise that wouldn't survive close scrutiny, but it might get them through initial security checkpoints. The station loomed ahead of them, a massive structure of metal and composite materials spinning slowly against the stars. Hundreds of ships surrounded it, both military and civilian. The peace negotiations were attracting attention from across the galaxy. "This is it," Jay said quietly as they docked. "Last chance to run away." Nobody ran. They entered Harmony Point through a cargo bay, their forged credentials getting them past the first security checkpoint. The station was crowded with diplomats, military personnel, reporters, and support staff. The combination of humans and Vortans moving through the same corridors was surreal. Despite being at war, both sides maintained the pretense of diplomacy. The teams split up at a junction point. Daewon watched Jay, Min, and Relkin disappear into the crowd. He had known these people for days or weeks, not years, yet he trusted them with his life. War made strange bonds. "Come on," he said to Hana and Bo-Ra. "Let's go save the galaxy." They made their way toward the diplomatic wing, trying to look like bored maintenance workers. Daewon carried a toolkit that concealed weapons. Hana had technical scanners that might help them locate the device. Bo-Ra was their muscle if things went wrong. Things went wrong almost immediately. "Stop right there," a coalition security officer commanded. Daewon recognized him. Lieutenant Park, someone he had trained with years ago. Park's eyes widened with recognition. "Daewon? You're supposed to be dead or captured. There's a warrant for your arrest." Daewon's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. But Hana stepped forward first. "Lieutenant Park, my name is Dr. Hana. I was assigned to Agent Daewon's team by Ambassador Kyung-mi herself. We have critical intelligence about a threat to the peace negotiations. The ambassador's life is in danger." Park hesitated, torn between duty and the urgency in Hana's voice. "What kind of threat? We can't discuss it in an open corridor. Please, you need to trust us. Check with the ambassador's office if you want verification, but do it quickly. Lives are at stake." The gamble was risky. If Park contacted higher authorities, they would be arrested immediately. But Hana was betting on the confusion of wartime, the possibility that communication between departments might be disrupted. Park studied them for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would save millions of lives. "The ambassador is in conference room 7. I'll escort you there, but if this is some kind of trick, I'll shoot you myself." "Fair enough," Daewon said. As they walked through the corridors with Park, Daewon's communicator buzzed with a message from Min. "Encountered resistance. Fighting our way to Power Hub. Need more time." They didn't have more time. The negotiations were scheduled to begin in 30 minutes. That was when both devices would activate. Conference Room 7 was guarded by 4 soldiers, 2 Coalition and 2 Vortan. The unprecedented cooperation would have been encouraging if Daewon didn't know it was all a lie, theater for a conspiracy that would enslave them all. Ambassador Kyung-mi was inside, reviewing documents with her Vortan counterpart, a tall, elegant being named High Speaker Tekrala. Both looked up in surprise when Daewon's team entered with Lieutenant Park. "Ambassador," Park said, "these people claim they have intelligence about a threat to your life." Kyung-mi's face went through several emotions in quick succession. Shock at seeing Daewon alive, suspicion about his fugitive status, and finally calculation. She was too experienced a diplomat to react without thinking. "Everyone out except them," she ordered. "Park, guard the door. Nobody enters without my authorization." When they were alone, Kyung-mi's diplomatic mask fell away. "You're wanted for treason, Daewon. This better be good." Tekrala moved closer, its large eyes studying them with alien intensity. "I know you," it said to Relkin. "You worked on the Consciousness Research Project. You disappeared 3 months ago. There is a death warrant for you among my people." "Because I discovered the truth," Relkin said. "Both of you are being manipulated. The peace negotiations are a trap. They explained everything in rapid, urgent words. The purifiers, the unity device, the conspiracy within both governments. At first, both leaders were skeptical, but Hana produced the evidence they had gathered, and Min transmitted additional files remotely. Kyungmi's face grew pale as she reviewed the data. Admiral Chang Wook, General So Jin, I trusted these people. As did I trust members of the Synod, Tekrala said quietly. This is worse than war. This is betrayal of everything our civilizations claim to stand for. The devices will activate in 25 minutes, Daewon said. One is hidden in this room. We need to find it and destroy it. They began searching frantically. Hana used her scanners while Bo-Ra physically examined every panel and fixture. It was Kyungmi who found it, hidden inside the conference table itself, disguised as part of the communication system. There, she said, but how do we disable it without triggering an alert? Daewon pulled out the harmonic disruptor Relkin had given him. We don't disable it. We let it activate, then disrupt it at the exact moment, but we need to coordinate with the other team at the power hub. He tried to contact Min, static. The signal was being jammed, probably by the purifiers to prevent exactly this kind of coordination. We're blind, Bo-Ra said grimly. We won't know if the other team succeeds until it's too late. Hana took Daewon's hand. Then we have to trust them. Trust that they're as determined as we are. Trust that humans can succeed when the odds are impossible. It was a very human thing to say, and it made both Kyungmi and Tekrala look at her with something like understanding. This is what you do, Tekrala said wonderingly. Humans. You hope even when hope seems illogical, you trust even when trust seems foolish, and somehow you survive. It's our best and worst quality, Kyungmi said with a slight smile. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Time ticked down. 15 minutes. 10. 5. They positioned themselves around the conference table, Daewon holding the disruptor, ready to activate it at the precise moment. Outside, they could hear soldiers taking positions for the negotiations. The Purifier's agents would be among them, waiting for their plan to succeed. 2 minutes. 1. The device began to hum, a sound felt more than heard. Energy built in the room, making the air feel thick and heavy. Daewon's finger hovered over the disruptor's activation button. 30 seconds. 20. Hana stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. 10 seconds. 5. The device reached critical activation. Daewon felt something reaching out, trying to touch his mind, to rewrite his thoughts and loyalties. He pressed the button. The harmonic disruptor screamed, a sound that made everyone in the room clutch their heads. The Unity device shrieked in response, its harmonics breaking apart. Then it exploded in a shower of sparks and melted components. They had done it. One device destroyed, but had the other team succeeded? Without communication, they had no way of knowing if the power hub device had also been neutralized. Then, throughout the station, the lights flickered. Power surged and dropped. Alarms began blaring. Min's voice crackled through the communicator, finally breaking through the jamming. Objective complete. Power hub device destroyed. We're coming to you. Relief flooded through Daewon so intensely he almost fell. They had done it. Against all odds, they had succeeded. But the victory was short-lived. The door burst open. Admiral Chang Wook stood there with a squad of soldiers, weapons raised. You've ruined everything, the Admiral said coldly. But it doesn't matter. War has already begun. Both sides have committed forces. The killing won't stop just because you destroyed our devices. No, Ambassador Kyungmi said, stepping forward. But the truth will stop it. And now we have proof of your conspiracy. She held up a data chip, the evidence they had gathered. Every communication, every payment, every order. We know everything, Admiral, and so will everyone else. Chang Wook's face twisted with rage. He raised his weapon, but Lieutenant Park stepped between him and the ambassador. "I won't let you do this, sir," Park said quietly. "Whatever else I am, I'm still a soldier who believes in protecting the innocent." Other soldiers in the squad looked uncertain, torn between orders and conscience. In that moment of hesitation, Bo-Ra and the newly arrived Min and Jae disarmed them with practiced efficiency. The conspiracy was broken. The truth was out. But as Dai-Wan looked at Hana, exhausted and brilliant and brave, he knew their hardest work was still ahead. Stopping the war that had already begun would take more than destroying a device or exposing conspirators. It would take hope, trust, and the stubborn human refusal to give up. Fortunately, those were qualities they had in abundance. The arrest of Admiral Chang Wook sent shockwaves through Harmony Point Station. Within hours, Ambassador Kyung-mi had called an emergency session of the Coalition Security Council. High Speaker Tekrala did the same with the Vortan Synod. The evidence was undeniable, broadcast on secured channels to the highest levels of both governments. But evidence alone couldn't stop a war already in motion. Dae-Won stood in the observation deck of Harmony Point, watching distant flashes of weapons fire where Coalition and Vortan fleets clashed along the border. Each flash represented lives lost, ships destroyed, families that would never be whole again. Just like his family had been broken when Young-Soo died. "They're still fighting," Hana said, joining him at the window. Her reflection in the glass looked as tired as he felt. "Even with the conspiracy exposed, momentum carries them forward." "War has its own logic," Dae-Won replied. "Once blood is spilled, it demands more blood. Both sides have lost people now. They want revenge. Then we have to give them something stronger than revenge. We have to give them hope for a better future." He turned to look at her. "You really believe that's possible?" "I have to. Because if I don't believe people can choose peace over violence, then everything I've dedicated my life to is meaningless." Before Dae-Won could respond, Lieutenant Park approached them. Since defying Admiral Chang Wook, Park had become an unexpected ally. "Ambassador Kyung-mi wants to see you both. There's been a development." They followed him to the conference room where this had all begun. The destroyed Unity device had been removed, but scorch marks on the table remained as evidence of how close they had come to disaster. Kyung-mi was there with High Speaker Tekrala and several military commanders from both sides. Also present was someone Dae-Won didn't expect. A Vortan military commander named Overlord Shen. He recognized the name from intelligence briefings. Shen was considered one of the hardliners, someone who had pushed for aggressive action against the coalition. "Overlord Shen has requested this meeting," Kyung-mi explained. "He has information about the Purifier extremists and their remaining forces." The Vortan commander was tall even by Vortan standards, with ceremonial markings that indicated decades of service. His large eyes studied Dae-Won with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology, human," Shen said in heavily accented English. "I believed you were the enemy. I believed my government when they said the coalition was developing weapons to enslave us. I have commanded attacks that killed your people based on lies." The admission hung in the air. Dae-Won felt his old anger rising, the rage that had driven him for 3 years. This being had ordered attacks on humans. This being had blood on its hands. But then he remembered Tae Yang's revelation about Young-Soo, about how his brother's death had been manufactured to manipulate him. How much of Shen's actions had been based on similar manipulation? "What information do you have?" Dae-Won asked, keeping his voice neutral. "The Purifiers have not given up. Admiral Chang Wook was one operative, but there are others. They have a reserve plan. If they cannot control both governments through the Unity device, they will destroy the peace negotiations in a way that makes reconciliation impossible." Tekrala leaned forward. "Explain." There is a purifier cell planning to destroy this station. They have armed a coalition military vessel with explosives. If they succeed, Harmony Point will be destroyed, killing the leadership of both factions who are gathered here. Both sides will blame each other. The war will become total and unstoppable. When? Kyungmi demanded. Within the next 6 hours. I do not know which ship has been compromised, only that it is among the coalition fleet currently docked at the station. Min was already at his portable computer, his fingers moving rapidly across the interface. There are 37 coalition military vessels currently docked. Any one of them could be the threat. Even if we evacuate the station, the explosion would destroy dozens of ships and kill thousands. We need to identify the correct ship and disable it, Bo-Ra said. But Dae-Won saw the problem immediately. The purifiers will be watching for that. The moment we start inspecting coalition ships, they'll detonate early. They'd rather kill thousands than let their plan fail. Then what do we do? Hana asked. Overlord Shen spoke again. I have made many mistakes in my service. I have been manipulated into attacking innocents. But I can still choose to do the right thing, even if it costs me everything. The Vortan commander straightened, his posture radiating determination. I will take my command ship to the coalition fleet position. I will position my vessel between Harmony Point and the coalition ships. If the purifiers detonate their weapon, my ship will absorb most of the blast. The station will survive. The room was silent. What Shen was proposing was suicide. His ship and crew would be vaporized. There must be another way, Tekrala said quietly. There is not. Time is too short, and the risk too great. This is my choice. My crew are volunteers who understand what is at stake. We are Vortans who remember what honor means. Before the purifiers corrupted our purpose. Kyungmi looked at the Vortan commander with something like respect. If you do this, you'll be remembered as a hero by both our peoples. I do not do it for memory. I do it because it is right. Dae-Won found himself speaking. Wait, there might be another way. If we can identify the compromised ship and evacuate it quietly, we could move it away from the station before detonation. No one needs to die. How do we identify it without alerting the purifiers? Min asked. Hana was thinking, her analytical mind working through possibilities. The bomb would need sophisticated systems to avoid detection by standard security scans. That means unusual power signatures or shielded compartments. Min, can you scan all docked ships for anomalies? Not without triggering alerts. The purifiers would know we're looking. Unless they think we're looking for something else, Jay suggested. What if we announce a security drill? Standard procedure after discovering a conspiracy. We're checking all ships for unauthorized personnel or equipment. It was a good idea, but Dae-Won saw the flaw. The purifiers will still be suspicious. They'll detonate early rather than risk discovery. Not if they think the drill is focused elsewhere, Hana said, her eyes bright with sudden inspiration. We announce we're searching Vortan ships, not coalition ones. The purifiers will assume we suspect their allies, not their own compromised vessel. It was risky, but it might work. They presented the plan to the assembled commanders. After brief discussion, they agreed. There was no better option. The security drill was announced station-wide. All Vortan vessels were ordered to submit to inspection for purifier infiltrators. It was deliberately provocative, designed to make the purifiers relax their guard. Meanwhile, Min worked his technical magic, quietly scanning coalition ships for anomalies. Bo-Ra, Jay, and Lieutenant Park prepared rapid response teams. If they found the right ship, they would need to move quickly. Dae-Won stayed with Hana in the command center, watching multiple screens showing ship positions and scan results. Overlord Shen had moved his command ship into position anyway, ready to sacrifice himself if the plan failed. There, Min said suddenly, highlighting one ship on the display. The vessel designated Transport 743. It has anomalous power readings in the cargo bay and shielded compartments that don't match standard military specifications. Are you certain? Kyung-mi asked. 90%. It's the best we're going to get. Daewon made the decision. Evacuate it. Tell the crew there's a reactor malfunction. Get everyone off that ship and move it away from the station using remote control. The next 20 minutes were the longest of Daewon's life. He watched as the crew of Transport 743 was evacuated under the pretense of technical problems. Some resisted, suspicious of the sudden order. Security personnel had to forcibly remove several crew members who were likely purifier operatives. The ship began moving away from Harmony Point under computer control, slowly at first, then faster as it built momentum. 1 kilometer. 2. 5. How far before it's safe? Kyung-mi asked. 10 kilometers minimum, Min replied. We're at 7 now. The ship reached 8 kilometers when the explosion happened. Not as catastrophic as it would have been at the station, but still massive. The blast wave rocked Harmony Point, making the entire structure shudder. Emergency barriers slammed into place. Alarms blared. When the sensors cleared, Transport 743 was gone. Nothing remained but expanding debris and radiation. Damage report, Kyung-mi ordered. Minor hull breaches on the station's outer rim. No casualties. All docked ships intact, a technician reported. They had succeeded. Barely. But success was success. Overlord Shen's voice came over the communication channel. Well done, humans. Your cleverness has saved many lives today, including mine and my crew. Perhaps there is hope for our peoples after all. In the command center, exhausted relief washed over everyone. Daewon felt Hana lean against him, and he put his arm around her shoulders. For the moment, it was enough just to be alive. But the victory was bittersweet. Tekrala was receiving reports from the Synod. The Purifier leadership had been identified and arrested, but their influence ran deep. It would take time to root out all their operatives. Similarly, Kyung-mi learned that General So-jin and several other high-ranking coalition officers were part of the conspiracy. The trust between military and civilian leadership was badly damaged, and still, on the borders, coalition and Vortan forces continued fighting. The conspiracy was broken, but the war it had started had its own momentum. We need to stop the fighting, Hana said. Now, before more lives are lost. How? Daewon asked. Both fleets have standing orders to engage enemy vessels. Changing those orders will take time we don't have. Tekrala and Kyung-mi exchanged looks. The two leaders had been enemies hours ago, but crisis had forced them into cooperation. We make a gesture so dramatic that both fleets will have to stop and listen, Kyung-mi said. We announce an immediate ceasefire, backed by both governments simultaneously, and we make it personal. She looked at Overlord Shen. Would you be willing to stand beside me in a joint broadcast? A Vortan military commander and a human diplomat together, calling for peace. Shen was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I will do this, but I am not the right Vortan for this message. I am a warrior, known for aggression. My presence will make some doubt the sincerity of the message. Then who? Tekrala asked. Relkin stepped forward. The scientist had been quiet through most of the crisis, but now spoke with conviction. I will stand with the ambassador. I am known among my people as a researcher, not a soldier. I chose humans over my own government when I believed humans were right. That choice nearly cost me my life, but I would make it again. Let me be the voice that tells my people the truth. It was decided quickly. Kyung-mi and Relkin would make a joint broadcast to all forces, Coalition and Vortan. They would reveal the full scope of the Purifier conspiracy, the destruction of the Unity devices, and the need for immediate ceasefire. But words alone might not be enough. Daewon had an idea. dangerous and perhaps foolish, but very human in its audacity. "Let me fly to the battle zone," he said, in an unarmed ship, broadcasting the ceasefire order continuously. "If both fleets see someone willing to risk everything for peace, it might break through the combat mindset." "That's suicide," Bora said flatly. "Maybe, but someone has to take the first step toward peace. Might as well be me." Hana grabbed his arm. "Then I'm coming with you." "No, it's too dangerous." "That's exactly why I'm coming. You said yourself humans are stubborn. We hope even when hope seems illogical. We trust even when trust seems foolish. So let's be properly human about this. Together." He wanted to argue, to protect her from danger, but he saw the determination in her eyes and knew there was no changing her mind. Besides, she was right. Some things were worth risking everything for. Jay volunteered to pilot them. "I'm the best pilot on this station. If anyone can keep you alive in a combat zone, it's me." They took a small civilian shuttle, completely unarmed and broadcasting emergency transponder codes. Min rigged it to transmit the ceasefire order on all military frequencies simultaneously. As they launched from Harmony Point toward the distant battle, Daewon looked at Hana beside him. "When this is over, if we survive, I want to show you something." "What?" "Hope. A future where humans and Vortans work together. The galaxy you've been dreaming of." She smiled. "I'd like that." The shuttle accelerated toward the battle, a small, fragile thing carrying a message of peace into a war zone. Behind them, Ambassador Kyungmi and Relkin began their broadcast. Their voices carried to every ship in both fleets. It was time to end the war. The battle zone was chaos. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in the black of space. Coalition and Vortan ships danced their terrible dance, weapons fire streaking between them. Daewon watched through the shuttle's viewport, his stomach tight with tension. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but Jay kept their small vessel steady, moving deeper into the combat area. "Broadcasting ceasefire order on all frequencies." Min's voice came through their communicator from Harmony Point. "Ambassador Kyungmi and Relkin are speaking now. I'm patching their transmission through to you." The speakers crackled to life. Kyungmi's voice, strong and clear, filled the shuttle. "Forces of the Terran Coalition and the Vortan Collective, this is Ambassador Kyungmi. I stand here with Relkin, a Vortan scientist who risked everything to expose the truth. Together, we call for immediate ceasefire. The war you are fighting was manufactured by extremists who wanted both our peoples to destroy each other. We have proof of this conspiracy. We have captured the conspirators. The threat they posed has been eliminated." Relkin's voice followed, speaking in Vortan and then in English. "My brothers and sisters of the collective, I tell you this truth. The humans are not our enemies. We have been manipulated by the purifiers, those who would return us to an age of isolation and fear. The unity device we were told would bring peace was actually a weapon of enslavement. Human agents worked alongside loyal Vortans to destroy this evil. Together, we stopped a catastrophe. Together, we can build a better future." Daewon listened to the words echo through space, carried to every ship in both fleets. But would it be enough? Would soldiers in the heat of battle lay down their weapons based on words alone? The answer came quickly and was not encouraging. A coalition destroyer locked weapons on a Vortan cruiser. Daewon watched in horror as missiles streaked through space. The Vortan ship's defensive systems shot most of them down, but two struck home. Explosions tore through the cruiser's hull. "They're not stopping," Hana said quietly. "The momentum is too strong." But then something unexpected happened. The Vortan cruiser, badly damaged but still functional, did not return fire. Instead, it broadcast a message on open channels. "Coalition destroyer, this is Cruiser Kelvinar. We acknowledge ceasefire order. We will not engage. We believe what Ambassador Kyung-mi and Relkin have told us. The Coalition destroyer hesitated. Daewon could imagine the debate happening on that ship's bridge. Officers arguing about orders and risks and trust. Finally, the destroyer's weapons powered down. Cruiser Kelvinar, this is Destroyer Resolute. Ceasefire acknowledged. Hold your position. It was like watching ice break on a frozen river. One act of trust, one choice to stand down, spread through both fleets. Ship after ship stopped firing. Commanders contacted each other, asking for confirmation, seeking understanding. But not all ships stopped. Some were too damaged to receive transmissions. Others were commanded by officers too locked into combat mentality. And some, Daewon suspected, were piloted by remaining Purifier operatives who would rather die than see peace succeed. One such ship, a Coalition frigate, broke formation and accelerated toward the Vortan fleet's flagship. Its weapons charged for a killing shot that would destroy the Vortan command structure and reignite the war. Jay, intercept that frigate, Daewon ordered. We're unarmed, Jay protested. What can we do? Put us between them and the Vortan flagship. Maybe they'll stop rather than destroy a civilian shuttle broadcasting peace messages. And if they don't stop? Daewon looked at Hana. She looked back at him and nodded. They both understood the risk and accepted it. Then we tried, Daewon said simply. Do it. The shuttle accelerated, its small engines straining. Jay's piloting was masterful, threading between larger vessels, dodging debris from earlier combat. The rogue Coalition frigate grew larger in their viewport, on a collision course with their tiny shuttle. They're not slowing down, Jay said, voice tight with tension. Daewon opened a direct channel to the frigate. Coalition vessel, this is Agent Daewon. Stand down immediately. The war is over. Don't throw your life away for a lie. The response was cold and mechanical. You're a traitor, Daewon. Step aside or be destroyed. Hana grabbed his hand. It was worth trying. It's always worth trying. The frigate's weapons locked onto their shuttle. In seconds, they would be vaporized. Daewon closed his eyes, thinking of young Su, hoping his brother would be proud of how this ended. Then another ship appeared, massive and fast, sliding between the shuttle and the frigate. It was Overlord Shen's Vortan command ship. Coalition frigate, you will stand down, Shen's voice boomed over open channels. I will not allow you to harm these brave humans who risk everything for peace. The frigate fired anyway. Shen's ship absorbed the blast on its armored hull, weapons impact scarring, but not penetrating its defenses. Then Shen returned fire, precisely targeted shots that disabled the frigate's weapons and engines without destroying the vessel. It is done, Shen announced. The last of the war's momentum is broken. And it was. Across the battle zone, the final ships ceased fire. The ceasefire held. Slowly, cautiously, enemies began talking to each other. Coalition and Vortan commanders exchanged communications, sharing their shock at the conspiracy that had manipulated them all. Daewon felt tension drain from his body, leaving him shaking with exhaustion and relief. Beside him, Hana was crying quietly, tears of joy and release. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. In the days that followed, the galaxy began the slow process of healing. The Purifier conspiracy was exposed in full, broadcast across both the Coalition and the Collective. The perpetrators were arrested and faced justice. Some chose death rather than capture. Others went quietly, their cause revealed as the hollow fanaticism it had always been. Captain Tae Yang was found dead in his cell, an apparent suicide, though many suspected he was silenced by remaining conspirators. General So Jin and several other high-ranking officers faced trial. Their convictions sent a message that no one was above accountability. The peace negotiations resumed, this time with genuine commitment from both sides. It was slow, frustrating work. Decades of mistrust couldn't be erased overnight, but both governments recognized that the alternative to peace was mutual destruction. Daiwan and his team were pardoned for their actions. They were offered honors and medals, public recognition of their heroism. Daiwan refused it all. He had done what was right, not what would bring glory. Instead, he asked for one thing: retirement from Coalition intelligence and permission to remain on Cascara. "You want to stay on that ugly rock?" Kyungmi asked, surprised. "After everything, you deserve better." "It's where the truth found me," Daewon said. "And it's where I want to build something meaningful." Hana made the same choice. She resigned her position and joined Daewon on Cascara. Together, with financial support from both coalition and collective governments, they established the Institute for Galactic Understanding. It started small, a single building in Cascara's capital with a handful of students from different species. The mission was simple: teach young people to understand each other, to see beyond propaganda and fear, to build bridges instead of walls. Relkin joined them, heading the Xenopsychology Department. Overlord Shen, having resigned his military commission, became their security advisor and a powerful voice for reconciliation. Lieutenant Park signed on as military liaison, helping train a new generation in peacekeeping rather than warfare. Bo-Ra, Min, and Jae went their separate ways, but visited often. They had become family in the crucible of crisis, and family bonds didn't break just because the mission was over. A year after the conspiracy's defeat, Daewon stood in the Institute's main hall, watching the first graduating class receive their certificates. Humans and Vortans, but also members of a dozen other species, all learning to work together. Hana found him there, as she always did during these moments of reflection. She had become the Institute's lead instructor, her dream of meaningful cultural exchange finally realized. "Thinking about your brother?" she asked gently. "Always," Daewon admitted. "But differently now. I used to think honoring his memory meant revenge. Now I know it means continuing his work. He died trying to expose the truth. We succeeded where he couldn't. And now we're teaching others to seek truth instead of believing comfortable lies. He would be proud of you." "I hope so." They walked outside into Cascara's evening. The sky was ugly, stained brown and gray by industrial pollution. But it was beautiful to Daewon because it represented something real. This was a world where different peoples lived together, not always peacefully, but honestly. No pretense, no propaganda, just the messy reality of coexistence. "I was thinking," Hana said as they walked, "we should expand the Institute, open branches on other worlds. If we could reach more young people, teach them what we've learned, imagine the difference we could make." "That's ambitious." "So was stopping a galactic war. We managed that." He smiled. She always saw the possibilities, the hope in any situation. It was one of the many things he loved about her. They had married 6 months ago, a simple ceremony with friends from both species. It had felt right, binding his life to hers officially when they had already been partners in every way that mattered. "There's something I haven't told you," Daewon said. "Ambassador Kyungmi contacted me last week. She wants me to join her diplomatic team. She says the galaxy needs people who understand both military strategy and cultural sensitivity." Hana stopped walking. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I needed to talk to my wife first. This is our life we're building here. I won't change it without your agreement." She was quiet for a moment, thinking. "What do you want to do?" "Honestly, I want to stay here, at the Institute. But I also understand that we could help more people if we worked at the galactic level. The choice isn't easy." "Then let's think about it together. We'll make a decision that honors both possibilities. We don't have to choose between local work and galactic impact. Maybe we can find a way to do both." That was so perfectly Hana. She never saw conflicts as either-or propositions. She looked for the third way, the solution that satisfied multiple needs. They walked back to their modest apartment near the Institute. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. The walls were covered with pictures from their journey. The team on Harmony Point after the conspiracy was broken, Relkin teaching a class of mixed-species students, Overlord Shen smiling at a joint coalition Vortan memorial service for those who died in the brief war. And prominently displayed was a picture of Young Su, Daewon's brother, forever young and smiling. Next to it was the medal he had been awarded posthumously for heroism, the 47 people he saved testifying to his character. Daewon touched the picture gently. "I finally understand what you were fighting for, brother, not just to expose a conspiracy, but to make a galaxy where truth matters more than power." Hana put her arm around him. "You're living his dream. We both are." Outside, the lights of Cascara glowed against the darkness of space. Somewhere beyond those lights, Coalition and Vortan ships patrolled together, former enemies learning to be allies. The peace was fragile, still new and untested. There would be setbacks and conflicts ahead, but the foundation had been laid. Humanity had proven something important during the crisis. They weren't the strongest species or the most technologically advanced, but they had qualities that mattered more: adaptability, hope, the stubborn refusal to give up even when facing impossible odds. And perhaps most importantly, humans had the ability to change, to admit when they were wrong, to forgive enemies, to build new futures instead of being trapped by past grudges. These weren't uniquely human traits, Daewon had learned. Relkin and Overlord Shen and countless other Vortans had shown the same qualities. But humans had a particular talent for inspiring these traits in others, for bringing out the best in different species. That was humanity's real strength, not weapons or tactics, but the ability to forge connections across the deepest divides. To see the person behind the enemy, to choose trust even when fear seemed more reasonable. Months passed, then years. The Institute grew, just as Hana had envisioned. Branch campuses opened on Coalition and Vortan worlds. The first generation of students graduated and went out into the galaxy, carrying with them lessons of cooperation and understanding. Some became diplomats, mediating disputes between species. Others became teachers, spreading the Institute's methods to new worlds. A few became political leaders, carrying the values of galactic unity into government. The Cold War between Coalition and Collective formally ended 3 years after the conspiracy was broken. The treaty signing happened on Harmony Point, in the same conference room where the Unity device had been destroyed. Both Kyungmi and Tekrala signed the documents, their signatures witnessed by thousands across the galaxy. Daewon and Hana watched the ceremony on their apartment screen, holding hands. They had been invited to attend in person, but declined. This moment belonged to the diplomats and leaders. They had played their part and were content to watch history unfold from the sidelines. "Do you have any regrets?" Hana asked during the ceremony. Daewon thought about it carefully. "I regret the lives lost before we stopped the conspiracy. I regret that Young-Soo didn't live to see this day. But I don't regret the choices we made, even the dangerous ones. Do you?" "Not even for a moment. Well, maybe one moment. When that frigate was about to destroy us, I had a brief regret that I never told you I loved you before we started this mission." He looked at her, surprised. "You loved me even then? From the moment you admitted you were wrong about me slowing you down? That's when I knew you were someone who could grow and change. That's when I started falling in love with you. I was falling for you too, though I didn't recognize it at the time. I thought it was just attraction or battlefield bonding, but it was more than that. You changed how I saw the galaxy." They kissed, gentle and familiar, the kiss of two people who had been through fire together and emerged stronger. Outside, in the galaxy they had helped save, ships from dozens of species moved freely between territories that had once been divided by suspicion and fear. The future remained uncertain. There would be new crises, new conflicts. No treaty could erase all the differences between species or prevent all misunderstandings. But now there was a foundation of trust, a network of people committed to peace, and institutions designed to foster understanding. It wasn't perfect, but it was possible, and possibility, Daewon had learned, was the most human thing of all. He thought about the person he had been when this journey started. Bitter, angry, driven by revenge. That person seemed like a stranger now. Hana had helped him become someone better. The mission had forced him to question everything he believed and rebuild his worldview on a foundation of truth rather than propaganda. "What are you thinking?" Hana asked. "That I'm grateful. For you, for this life, for the chance to be part of something meaningful. And I'm thinking that Young-Soo would be proud, not of what I did, but of who I became. He would be. And he'd love what we've built here." They stood together at their window, watching the ugly, beautiful world of Cascara spin beneath them. This planet of refugees and criminals and dreamers, where they had found each other and found their purpose. Tomorrow, the work would continue. Students to teach, programs to expand, a galaxy to help heal one mind at a time. It was patient work, without glory or immediate results. But it was work that mattered, changing the future in small but crucial ways. Tonight, though, was for remembering how far they had come. From enemies to allies. From a galaxy at war to a galaxy learning peace. From two people following orders to two people following their hearts. The stars looked different now than they had when Daewon first stood on the Indomitable watching them blur past. They looked like what they truly were. Not distant cold lights, but homes to countless beings trying to survive and thrive in an uncertain universe. And humanity, stubborn and adaptable and endlessly hopeful, had earned its place among those stars. Not through conquest or domination, but through the simple revolutionary act of choosing understanding over fear. That was the galaxy Daewon and Hana were building. One student, one conversation, one connection at a time. It was the galaxy Young-Soo had died trying to create. It was the galaxy worth fighting for. In the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.